Biden administration struck a deal with the Mexican government to delay the migrant caravans heading into the United States. Yet by maintaining the allure of special benefits for people if they can reach the U.S. border, the incentive created a new crisis in Mexico. To get around this, the Mexican government launched an operation to quietly flood America's border, and what locals call a human smuggling ant operation. Todd Bensman, author of America's Covert Border War, the Untold Story of the nation's battle to prevent jihadist infiltration, and also senior national security fellow at the Center for Immigration Studies, has been at the forefront of this issue. Hey, Todd Bensman, thanks for being on Crossroads.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so Todd, I understand you just got back from Mexico, really investigating, what's happening with this border crisis. Can you tell me a bit about what you found down there recently?
Right. Well, first of all, I went to the city of Tapachula, which is on the Mexico's farthest southern border with Guatemala. In fact, I call that America's other southern border because what happens at that border matters a lot to what happens at our own physical border here. And it's very predictive. So I thought for 2022, I'd go down there and see what's going on so we can kind of get a sense of what's going to happen here in the next couple quarters. It ain't good. There are tens of thousands of migrants that are right now moving through the Darien Gap. 30,000, I was told, 25 to 30,000 are pooled up in Colombia, moving through Panama, and should be arriving in Tapachula soon. When I was there, it had actually been fairly cleared out recently by the Mexicans in an operation that was designed to hide the fact that they were moving 50,000 people to our border that they were supposed to block down there and keep blocked in perpetuity. This happened because there's an agreement between the Biden and the Obrador administration to slow roll all those people coming in from the Darien Gap in Tapachula by putting them through the worst possible trauma that you could put somebody through, which is bureaucracy. We're going to make you apply for an appointment to get an appointment to get an appointment, ultimately to be able to get Mexican asylum or residency card. And only then will you have freedom of movement in Mexico. Well, those are very prized because the second that you have one of those, you can go straight to the American border and cross. Probably for the last 6 to 10 months, once it became clear that there was a massive migration crisis unfolding in the early part of the Biden administration, they sent emissaries down to Mexico City and cut a deal. We're going to give you aid and COVID vaccinations and all this stuff. And in exchange, we want you to hold the line at your southern border. We want you to gum up as many migrants as you can gum up down there so that it doesn't look as bad at our border when they all come through. Slow them down, slow roll them down there. And there was an agreement that they would do that. And so to the extent that you see any enforcement action happening down there, this molasses-like bureaucracy, arrests and detentions and deportations and that sort of thing, that all has to do with this agreement with the Biden administration. The problem is that from the perspective of those people being held back, they are on the cusp. I mean, it's a 3-day bus trip. They are almost there. A 3-day bus trip to the southern border, and they just can't take it. So they riot, and they cause civil disturbances, and they form caravans, and they fight. There's 50,000 of them built up down there, and pretty soon the Mexican government has its own domestic political problem, and they came up with a very creative solution to handle that problem and also not get in trouble with the Biden people.
Okay, so let's talk. I want to go into that next, but let's talk now about why this matters for the midterm elections. Because you said that your assessment is that this has to do with the elections, and that's why they're doing it.
Right. Within the White House, you have progressive liberals who have seized immigration policy completely from the beginning. And so all of this mass migration is the result of the things that they influenced in the very beginning from day one. I mean, I think on the very first day they were implementing rollbacks of the Trump policies, and that set it off. But there are also political pragmatists inside the White House who have been pushing back all along, knowing that polls are showing that this issue with the border and all this mass migration is going to hurt the Democrats all over during the midterm elections coming up in the House and in the Senate, and very likely, if it continues, in the presidential election of 2024. So there is pushback and pressure on the Biden administration to actually do something Trumpian down there and make it look not as bad, and to, let's just say, take the ammo belt out of the Republican machine gun if they can. Fewer rounds in the belt, in the ammo belt there.
Now, Todd, just last question here. Why do this? I mean, what is the benefit? Is this a political thing? Do the Democrats think this is going to get them votes? Do they think this is? I mean, it doesn't look like it's helping in the polls. Like, what's the motivation? As far as we can observe it.
I mean, look, that's a big question. The short answer is I don't really exactly know. I'm asked this all the time. I don't understand it. Most rational, reasonable people that I know don't understand it. Nobody gets it. Countries that have existed throughout known history have all guarded their borders. Every country that exists today guards their borders. It's a given of national sovereignty. Nation states in ancient Babylon and whatever, everybody's done it. And there's only one country in the world that has ever not done it, and it's the United States. All of a sudden, we're like this laboratory experiment of no borders. So it's a truly bizarre thing. It's a good question to ask. But if I were to take a shot at it, I would say that it comes from this sort of latter-day ideology or theology almost of multicultural, progressive, liberal ideologies that have to do with a lot of virtue reinforcement of self and virtue signaling outside. We are not racist. Look how not racist we are. Look how inclusive we are. Those people in the Biden White House that I talked to, I think they're cut from that cloth. We know who they are, and their backgrounds are from that multicultural theology over there. We've seen this in Europe. The Europeans have this. It's kind of a modernization of something that's out of the 60s, the 60s New Left, I think. I don't know. I don't want to get too in the weeds on that. And then there's basic things too, like American industry loves cheap labor, the housing industry, the builders. I mean, everybody loves this, to have these desperate people willing to work for next to nothing for profits.
Yeah, a lot of mixed interest then, yeah. Yeah,
sure.
And more competition, more demand, you can drive prices up and keep supply low. That's just how it is. Hey, Todd Bensman, thanks for being on Crossroads again. Really appreciate it.
Great to be here. I appreciate being here.